All right, welcome back, third grade. We are here for history. So if you want to get your history books, and then also you'll need a sheet of notebook paper because I have some information I want you to copy down at the end of this lesson. So you'll have it to use for our test, which will probably be next week sometime. Okay, so open your history books to page 84. As of right now, Thomas Jefferson is president. And in this lesson, we're going to see how Thomas Jefferson encouraged economic growth in the United States at this time um, through outward expansion. And we're going to see how he worked with other nations to help the United States grow. So as we look at these, as we go through and read these pages, I want you to think about these things as we're discussing and reading about what Jefferson did and about what's called the Louisiana Purchase. So we're going to list the benefits of purchasing the Louisiana Territory. We're going to trace the trade route down the Mississippi River. And then which country did America have to deal with in purchasing the Louisiana Territory? So first of all, let's look at what is the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River is a very important river because it was used for trade. It was the western U.S. border when Jefferson became president. That's as far as we had gone, that far west. So that was the border right here. Here is the Mississippi River that runs down in here, and it runs down into um, the Gulf of Mexico. And so this right here was a good port where they would bring ships in and unload materials, products, produce, things that America needed. And then the ships would take it back up the Mississippi River and they could take it over here to the east side and get it into the colonies and the other states that had been established. So this trade route here was very vital to sustain the American people. So Jefferson knew that, and so he wanted to keep this open so that we would be able to use it. What is the Louisiana Territory? The Louisiana Territory is this large area here right in the middle of the United States, and we purchased it from France in 1803. President Jefferson sent the Lewis and Clark expedition out to find out what this area was like. What did it have? What resources did it have? What could it offer the United States? So we'll talk about the Lewis and Clark expedition, I think, in our next lesson or the next two lessons. So we will talk about them. And then there, of course, is New Orleans, which is now the capital of Louisiana. New Orleans is a large port city at the end of the Mississippi River, and I showed that to you. It was controlled by Spain, and then France took it over. And then once France had it, the United States bought it from France. And this area there, New Orleans, was a very good port for the United States and actually anyone who was sending produce or product, whatever, importing things into the United States. And it was also helpful for exporting. Whatever the United States, the farmers had grown or the builders had built, they could also export things over to England and other countries. So this is the Mississippi River, and that's what we are talking about is the most important thing here, this trade route. See this blue line here? This is the river, and that's what we're talking about. That's what the United States, Thomas Jefferson knew the United States needed that in order to help us. So if you look in your book on page 84, at the top there is the map here that I'm showing you. So you can look at that map and you can use your finger to trace the outline of the Mississippi River. It says the Mississippi River was the western border of the United States when Jefferson became president. Beyond the Mississippi was a large area known as the Louisiana Territory. So this is as far as we had gone. Remember we talked about them moving westward? Well, this is as far as they had gone up to now, and this over here was just really nothing. There was this place that Spain had called Louisiana Territory, and then France took it over from Spain, and so we really didn't know what was here. So that's when the Lewis and Clark expedition took place, and they went out, explored that land, came back and said, "Hey, President, I think this is what we want." So the French had control of New Orleans, which is down here at the bottom. The French could keep American ships from going to the Atlantic Ocean. And see what they wanted to do, because this was such a good port here for the ships to come in and out. France would often tell Jefferson, no, your ships aren't allowed down here. And when he would do that, the ships couldn't go down there. We weren't able to export stuff and we were not able to import stuff. So again, Jefferson knew we needed that. So Jefferson went to Congress and he said, look, we need this area. We need this port. We need the New Orleans port if we want America to grow. So Congress gave him money and they said, okay, well, you go talk to France and see if they'll sell us the land. So Jefferson sent men to France to talk about the purchase. France surprised Jefferson. It wanted not only to sell the New Orleans, this area here, but it wanted to sell all of this land, about 820 acres in total. And this, by purchasing this here, it would almost double the size of the United States. So Jefferson saw the benefits of buying not only the port area here along the Mississippi River in New Orleans, but also all of this area here. He knew we would be able to move further westward, and he knew we would double the size of our land. So Jefferson saw the benefits. The Americans would own New Orleans, and they could use the Mississippi River for trade. They didn't have to get France's permission to do so. So Jefferson asked France, "What if I give you $3 million?" And at this time, France was in a war with England, and so they needed money. So the president of France said, "Nope. How about let's say $5 million?" And Jefferson said, "Well, how about we stick with 3 million?" Anyway, they worked out a deal where eventually America paid $15 million for 820 acres of land here. But again, you have to realize we needed this port area where we could bring ships in and out. We could import stuff, we could export stuff. So all in all, Jefferson ended up purchasing this Louisiana territory, and he ends up doubling the land for the United States, and it ends up helping us in the long run. So in 1803, the United States paid $15 million to France for the Louisiana territory. This picture here is just the front of the document, the treaty that they made up, where both presidents signed it. And here is the actual document. It is a photocopy of the document, not the actual document, but it is a secondary source, if you want to say. And so, what country did the United States buy the Louisiana Territory from? It bought it from France. Now, take out your sheet of paper, and this is what I want you to copy down right now. What were the benefits of purchasing the Louisiana Territory? There were basically 3 benefits. Trade from the Mississippi River could not be cut off. We would own the land. Nobody could tell us that we couldn't go down the Mississippi River. The extra land would give space for farmers. Opening up that land would allow the farmers to grow more crops. We would be able to export those and sell those. The American people would get more money for it. And then the United States more than doubled its size. So just by purchasing that land, the United States was able to double. So I have a little video here for you just to watch, just about the Louisiana Purchase. It kind of sums up everything that I've said to you so far. It's not very long, so we'll watch that, and then you could go back to the slide and copy that information down.
In 1801, the land that is now known as the state of Louisiana was part of a large territory controlled by France. The Mississippi River was the best way to transport goods to the United States and Europe. The river ran through Louisiana and met the Gulf of Mexico in New Orleans, Louisiana. It was an important port for American shipping and trade. Napoleon Bonaparte was the Emperor of France, and he controlled the New Orleans port. He didn't like having Americans in New Orleans. He wanted Frenchmen living there. The President of the United States was Thomas Jefferson. He understood how important the New Orleans port was for the growth and prosperity of the United States. He knew the United States needed to control it. President Jefferson sent diplomat Robert Livingston to France to meet with Napoleon and offer to buy New Orleans for $2 million. Napoleon declined. President Jefferson tried again. This time, he sent diplomat James Monroe to offer Napoleon up to $10 million for New Orleans. At the time, Napoleon had a problem. He was leading the French in a war against Great Britain, and it was costing a lot of money. He decided to sell New Orleans and an additional 828,000 square miles for $15 million. The deal was struck, and instantly the United States doubled in size. The Louisiana Purchase included land that later became the states of Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, North Dakota, Texas, South Dakota, New Mexico, Nebraska, Kansas, Wyoming, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Montana.
Okay, so that gave you a little bit more information there. And I'm sorry, but I had said that it was 820 acres. It was 820,000 acres. That's a big difference between 820 and 820,000. So now what I need you to do is go back to this screen here and copy down the benefits of purchasing the Louisiana Territory. Copy this down on notebook paper and then just put it in your black folder, and we will use it the rest of this week and then next week when we prepare for our test. So you will need to know these 3 benefits of the United States purchasing the Louisiana Territory. All right, thank you. Have a good day.